these proceedings at the Madlanga Commission, just to recollect. So at this point in time, it's been adjourned for the day, and they will resume at 9:30 on Thursday. That's my understanding, but it means you can comment right away. So who's going to be the first to call in? In fact, we've got some WhatsApp comments right away in terms of voice notes, so let's hear that.
Ashraf, I just want to have a comment. Right, I just want to share my thoughts with regards to General Masemola there, the Commission of Inquiry. I feel very sorry for him. I feel like it's in a compromised situation because at the end of the day, he does know something that we don't know, and he was just following orders. But he's not to be blamed because he went and tell number one. He told our comrade number one. Number one, what did number one do? Number one didn't do nothing about it. And now we expect number one to be given recommendations on something to do about it. Do we really believe he's going to do something about it? And I have no problem with number one. I voted for number one. I'm a loyal supporter of number one. Although that's why there's factionalism because of this sort of characters within the party of our, liberational democracy, which is ANC. But it's questionable things we can't really, hide from. Daniel Haim Bryanston.
There we are. I mean, your concerns, I hear that. And you know what? Many people have very, very similar concerns. So let's hear it. Let's hear your one word that describes today's testimony at the commission. And then, just you can elaborate on that too. So Kaya in the Eastern Cape, we spoke about Majola yesterday. Let's not even go there. Let's talk about the commission. Hello.
Yeah, good afternoon.
Yeah, good afternoon.
Ashraf.
Thank you.
Well, my one word for the National Commissioner for today is that, according to me, he exuded the aura of defeat. I wasn't convinced. He didn't command my attention like Mkwanaza. So that's my observation for today.
Okay, but what a fascinating phrase you're using. You're saying exuding the aura of defeat. Normally it would be the aura of victory, right? How do you do that? How do you manage to exude the aura of defeat? Tell me.
Well, he was, when the commissioners were actually posing questions on him, he wasn't convincing. Sometimes you could even tell that the commissioners are also unsure with the answer that is given. It looks like whatever testimony that was given, it was contradictory with what he has, with his statements. So that's why I was sort of losing him, and I was feeling asleep. Unlike when Konaz was giving the testimony, I was awake and I was glued to the radio. But on this one, I was sometimes looking for another radio just to maybe listen to some music and stuff.
Oh my goodness. Okay, there we are. And interesting. I just saw a piece on Instagram unrelated to this, which talks about if you want to be a good leader, you have to learn to speak well. And I'm not saying that's true, but that's what that pitch was. You have to learn to speak well. And maybe your point about making the comparisons tells you we do get hooked on naturally to people who speak clearly and articulately. They even if they're right or wrong, we do listen to them a lot more attentively. So point taken.
That is true.
All right, Kaya. Thank you for that. Much
Thank
appreciate that. Kaya saying exuding the aura of defeat, describing Masemola. What a description that is. Fred in Limpopo. How's it, Fred?
Ashraf, how are you?
Yeah, I'm good indeed. Right? What's your point?
Yesterday I said to you, there is a question that was not responded from Masemola. The question that says who disbanded or who gave the instruction to disband the task team. Today, when you listen to Masemola, it's very clear that the statements were not corroborating, or the verbal statement were not corroborating with the statement written on paper. So the essence of this is just to inform you that if really this was to be the binding outcomes, automatically those that we think were to be guilty were not to be guilty because statements are contradicting. So it's better going forward if the matter is to be proceeded to court and so forth, as it might be and might not be, depending on circumstances. And believe you me, this is just made for the president to know, as they made it from the WAGO to say this is not going to be binding. And one will just basically want to check or establish from the utterance that was made as a WAGO statement to say their findings are not going to be binding, to say how do we then come to such type of financial expenditure, such a huge financial expenditure on things that are not going to even have an impact. People are just basically going to leave the country. As we speak, those who are implicated, who are not in court or who are not in police stations, they might leave.
Interesting. They may just go already. Okay.
Yeah, and believe you me, no one is sanctioned not to leave the country as they are implicated, because the outcome of that particular commission is not binding. So we don't even know whether we are in a banana republic or what. I mean, after all, this was supposed to be done in court of law, not in the way of commission, to alert people that you are indeed to be investigated, and as a result, just Shona Corner.
Okay.
I mean, this is very painful, man.
All
Shona
right.
Corner, if you are not living, I alerted you from the commission perspective. It's
Okay.
up to you.
Well, there we are. Thank you for that. I mean, making the point about we don't even know if we are in a banana republic. So what's worse than being in a banana republic? What's worse? Not knowing that you are in a banana republic. Okay, I'm not saying that at all. Okay? I'm just quoting what others are suggesting. I'm not saying that at all. Michael in Gqeberha. Hi, Michael.
Ashraf,
Yeah.
quickly, just two things. Remember, the president moved the security cluster under the president. The question is why, though? That's one. And then the second one is that the director of the National Prosecution, Ms. Patoyi, she came out live on TV and she said, look, whatever that is coming out of the commission, we must treat it as allegations and has to be tested.
Mm-hmm.
It just makes you to wonder, okay, if these are allegations, can we then also say the same thing about the Zondo Commission? Right?
Yeah.
Yeah, if you are telling us, no, we must hold our horses and treat these testimony as allegations, can that also then apply to the Zondo Commission to say, well, then the Zondo Commission was also allegations and has to be tested? It was bizarre for her to come out and make such a statement.
Okay, well, there you are. You see, well, I hear you, Michael, and I think that's the point for many others who are saying, if they are merely recommendations and therefore need to be tested in a court, why not jump to the court in the first place? The flip side of that, and I'd like to get an expert's view on this, that there's a sense that having a commission as opposed to a court allows you to have more witnesses or testifying as quickly as possible, as opposed to a court of law, which is you can't just arrest people, if you get my point. Charlie in the Eastern Cape. Hello, Charlie.
Yeah, good afternoon, Afra.
Yeah.
About this commission. Remember, when we were facing the Zondo Commission, there was an argument that this is not a thing for the arms. Now the last puzzle of the piece has been filled. Indeed, the state is captured. I just want to put that point. Because now, if you look at now, it completes that puzzle, the piece that was left when people said the state is captured. They said for the state, 3 arms of the state needs to be captured, which is judiciary, administration, puzzle has been completed. We can safely say, indeed, the state is captured.
Okay. Oh, my goodness. Charlie saying the state is captured. Thank you for that call. And again, as always, we have a cross-section of people from around the country. I haven't had somebody from Pietermaritzburg for a while. I'm just putting that point out, or from the Ekurhuleni region. But hey, you can be wherever, Benoni, Johannesburg, or Davidton, as I may have suggested, or somewhere in the Eastern Cape, as we had a few people calling in now, or the Western Cape, or Polokwane, hey, wherever, or around the world. Let me hear what your thoughts are. One word for you that describes today's testimony at the Madlanga Commission. There's more. Albram in the Limpopo. You see, there we are. Limpopo we go to. Hello, Albram.
Hi, my name is Aldrin.
Oh, Aldrin. My apology for that. Yeah, sorry, Aldrin.
Yes,
go for it.
Yes. I'm from Ilim in Limpopo, near Polokwane. Thanks for taking my call. My just one question to you, Ashraf, and maybe you can pass it on to the judges and so on, and ask why were the most critical issues like the disbanding of the PKTT and most decisions were made on the odd days of 24 December 2024, and the other one was 31st December, New Year's Eve and Christmas Eve. It's where people should be relaxing. I believe government officials are on leave and nobody should be taking decisions like that. So I'm just worried about why in those old days. Thank you.
Okay, got that. Well, okay. If somebody knows better, let's see what they say. Aldrin, thanks for that. Right, and there's more. We'll get to Maklatsi in a moment. But Nivari in Bombela, go for it. Nivari, hello.
How are you, Ashra, and the listeners?
I'm very good indeed. It's been interesting, listening, because you never know what time we start talking, because predictably it should be 4 o'clock, sometimes 10:04. Today was earlier, so you never know. But I'm good. Thank you.
No, I'm fine. Thanks. So these people, South Africans, look to call ourselves not sure whether we're banana or not. I think they must travel up Africa and come back and see whether we're banana or not. I mean, this is a democracy in action, and that's what we fought for. We fought for equality. So allegations and rumor mongering can't be justified as a means to an end itself. There need to be a process of verifying those kind of things. Otherwise, we can kill many people by rumor mongering without getting the facts behind the matter. So I think that we must celebrate the fact that we've won democracy, and it's working for us. Because everyone is equal before the law,
Yeah.
So we don't determine the basis of who look good, who look bad, but we facts are important. Data should be used to arrive at the facts.
Well, I mean, I agree.
But
That is, yeah. Go ahead, yeah.
One interesting aspect about Masemola's testimony today, and I think we need to go deeper into this one. So the minister sent a letter to him to cancel Matlala's contract.
Right.
But now he said the minister is a tech team of Matlala. It doesn't make sense to me. And the commissioners asked him, so you took instruction to cancel Matlala's contract, and you never asked whether it's legal or not. But on this one, you are questioning. What is the difference between the two instructions? And which one is not encroaching, which one is encroaching? And then he come back with the in the hindsight, not principle. So you can't use the hindsight, use principle of law.
Yeah.
Right? My view is that they're confusing operation and oversight. The minister is responsible for policing South Africa. He will give instruction from time to time, though his powers are delegated to the commissioner to implement those decisions. So this issue of operation, I think we're really worried about wrong things. And I think this commission was not even necessary, by the way.
Okay, really. All right. Thanks for that, Nivari. I mean, just by the way, I'm just quoting now from Masemola saying on the issue of obeying instructions from the minister. Just see what he says. He said, if the minister were to give you an instruction that strays on to operational or managerial matters, would you, General, say to the minister, I'm not going to obey them? And then saying, yeah, it depends, Commissioner, but yes, I would. It's a matter that is career limiting, but it depends on how he does it. Maklatsi in the Western Cape, you're live, go for it.
Yeah, hey, Ashraf, how are you?
I'm very good indeed, yeah. What about you?
I'm good, thanks, man. I'm good. It was raining a little bit earlier on, but we all good this side in Cape Town.
Joburg, no rain, man. It's warm here. This place is warm. That's all I can tell you.
I want to comment on a few things, my brother. Maybe I'm deviating from the current sort of situation, but I'm still about the commission. It's about everything that is happening with regards to the SAPS.
Yeah.
Okay?
Mm-hmm.
Now, I want to say that the South African police services is broken to the ashes. Let me explain why. Mm-hmm. Why is it that we do not have any provincial commissioner coming out to speak about the horrible crimes that are happening in our country? I can give you stats, Ashraf. I download the SAP stats now and then, and I go through it, and I ask myself, why wasn't that the same or dealt with as a briefing, similar to the briefing that was done? Now we are concerned about a few individuals, and yes, we have to be concerned, but what about the ordinary South Africans? As I speak to you right now in KZN, and I travel KZN quite often, there's about 104 cases that are reported today of burglary. There is murders that are reported today in KZN. There's many other crimes like hijackings that are reported in KZN, and it's not only KZN. But why do we have to go this far for something that small when we could have just had other means and ways to resolve it, when we have so much horrific crimes? As I speak to you, Ashraf, right now, someone you know in your family, any caller or any listener, is going to experience crime today. That is the briefing that we need to give monthly and make sure that there are KPIs associated with what provincial commissioners do. And I praise Mkwanazi for his efforts, for his confidence, but crime is still a problem. The Western Cape, as I drive, as we speak, I'm so scared. I am so scared.
Okay. I am so scared. And I hear what you're saying, and I think that sort of thing reflects what so many people feel. Like this, you wonder, even in general crime, whenever there's been these crime results, there's never been this sense of urgency. And I've used the example to say, remember when COVID-19 struck, the sense of urgency in dealing with it, and how it became a major national issue that everything must stand still. We never, I'm not saying we must have a shutdown, not at all, but we've never adopted the issue of crime in the same way. And yet we all know it is the big blot. There are smaller ones, but the big blot on South Africa's socio-political landscape and its attractiveness as a country has got to be crime, not just crime like violent crime. Thanks for that, Maklatsi. We'll get to some of your voice notes after this.
This Heritage Month, SAFM invites you to journey into the past while shaping the future under the theme Reimagine Our Heritage Institutions for a New Era. We celebrate the stories, traditions, and voices that define who we are as a nation. From vibrant conversations to thought-provoking debates, SAFM is where heritage meets innovation, connecting generations and keeping our culture alive in a changing world. SAFM, leading the conversations that move us. Call us on 086 000 2032.
Right, lots of people commenting via voice note, and great that you've done that. Keep them up to 30 seconds. It really does help us get as many voice notes out as possible. Here's one.
Good day, Ashraf. It's Chris in Maritzburg. My one word is lackluster. It doesn't inspire confidence. It doesn't seem to show the urgency and the seriousness of the matters that he has been seized with for quite some time. And when asked why he has not disciplined this CB, he seems to be pushing it away. Really, we have a serious problem. We should start looking for a commissioner that will inspire confidence and bring back the trust of the people.
Well, there you are. Lackluster is what you say. And there you are. There's one from Maritzburg. Lackluster or not, right?
Ashraf, John in Bloemfontein. Based on today's evidence and yesterday's evidence and the General Mukwanas, my one word, in one word, Mkhunu must go. That's my one word. It must be one word. No space in between. Mkhunu must go. Please.
Hi, if there's no space in between, I think you must put a hashtag before that. Then it works sort of all in full. I get what you say. All right, there's more words that are used to describe the goings on today. But here's another.
Hi, Chef. Errol here from Durban. Hope you're well, my friend. Yeah, one word, I would say interesting. It's the only one I can think of at the moment. Errol, Durban.
Sure, thanks for that, Errol. But the interesting is almost like insipid. It's like, man, it's just by the way. So that's not, it's very neutral. Interesting, okay.
Good afternoon, Mr. Ashraf. Bongo, Sundisa here. You see, Mr. Ashraf, these employment and regulations and what are very problematic. You can see where this commission goes. So, still, like the minister must be paid. He's on suspension with full pay. It was going to be better if they say suspended pending the outcome of the commission, because now he's earning full money for doing absolutely nothing. They are wasting money, these people. He must not get paid.
He must not get paid. But you see, that's easier said than done, because there are legal issues that prevents what you just said, right?
One word to describe today's proceedings: dreadful. Dreadful.
Why dreadful? Oh my goodness. Dreadful.
Hi, good afternoon, Ashraf. It's PK here. I just wonder, once everything is done with regarding the current commission, will be any arrest, or is going to be just like what we've witnessed with the previous commission? Nothing will be done as always.
Well, I mean, clearly I can't answer that question. As you know, these are going to be recommendations made. What happens next is another story. But all I can tell you, if the evidence is damning and nothing comes out of it, well, I mean, that would put, no, I'm not going to use the word banana republic, as somebody else said, but you can't do that and expect the country then to be respected by the people who live in it. They will just not respect it. Okay, there's more to come on other issues, and we'll take some of your calls, more calls, as soon as we can get a chance. We'll also get an update, as we have been doing, regarding the commission in terms of some in-depth commentary around a quarter to 5. But there's more to come. Right now, it's 4 o'clock. Let's get to the news. Here's Ondela Mbana.
Thank you, Ashraf. On the top stories, Matlala's phone records implicate Sibiya and Charlotte Maxeke Hospital faced with severe pathology backlog. For SAFM News, I am Ondela Mbana, and a very good afternoon. National Police Commissioner Fani Masebula says phone records obtained from murder-accused Vusumuzi Ket Matlala have implicated suspended Deputy Police Commissioner Shadrack Sibiya in the disbandment of the KwaZulu-Natal Political Killings Task Team. He told the Matlanga Commission that the directive to disband the team came from Police Minister Senzo Mchunu, who has been placed on special leave. Masebula claims that Sibiya's actions to disband the PKTT were closely tied to his connections to members of a criminal cartel.
These records suggest that Sibiya's actions were not merely procedural but rather tied to deeper connections with individuals identified as members of the cartel. The timing and agency of his compliance appeared to align with imperatives to shield cartel members from ongoing investigation. This is the subject of an ongoing criminal investigations.
The backlog in pathology services has reached a breaking point at Charlotte Maxeke Academic Hospital in Johannesburg, where critical cancer diagnoses are being delayed. More than 1,540 specimens await processing, while around 12,756 processed cases await analysis. These results are essential in assisting and guiding healthcare professionals to make informed decisions while treating cancer patients. Gauteng Health MEC Nomandu Moradihoko says they are working on addressing the issue.
Pathology results are critical indeed to the diagnosis and treatment of cancer patients. Our healthcare specialists continue to deliver necessary interventions and support, ensuring that all patients receive care, including radiation oncology treatment. As the department, then, we are also actively looking into the possibility of establishing our own laboratory to fast-track the processing of pathology specimens. We are working hand in hand with NLHS and other stakeholders to find sustainable solutions.
The situation remains calm in Foshville on Gauteng's West Rand following a protest over water shortages earlier today. Police fired rubber bullets at angry residents of Kokosi Township who had barricaded the N12 with burning tires. The Merafong municipality is currently grappling with severe water shortages after failing to settle a 1.4 billion rand debt with Rand Water, which has since reduced its bulk supply. Kelvin Ludla reports.
Angry residents barricaded roads with heavy stones and burning tires. The protesters, mostly from Kokosi, were demonstrating against the severe water shortages affecting the township and the broader Merafong City local municipality. They say they have been without water for weeks, making life extremely difficult for them.
An economic expert for local airline Airlink has explained a key part of how competition is assessed. Anthony Fillet has been testifying for a second day in the competition tribunal, hearing taking place in Pretoria. The almost week-long sitting is considering evidence over allegations of excessive and predatory pricing by Airlink. Fillet, testifying in the airline's defense, told the panel that their approach focuses on what it would actually cost a new airline to enter the market rather than just looking at the incumbent airline's expenses.
And that's essentially what I've sought to do in my capital cost calculations, where I seek rather to take the historical cost of each of the fixed assets, or rather start with the current value of those assets, but not new for old. I don't assume new for old, but rather the condition as purchased. And that's, I think, an important distinction.
Health officials in Gaza say at least 18 people have been killed today as the Israeli military pushes deeper into Gaza City. Diplomatic pressure on Israel has continued at the UN in New York as more countries formally recognize the Palestinian state. The BBC's Yolandi Nell.
That recognition of the state of Palestine, the different diplomatic moves that are afoot at the UN General Assembly have not changed anything on the ground in Gaza. Israel is continuing with its military offensive, concentrated on Gaza City, which it sees as being a bastion of Hamas. And there's footage that's emerged on social media showing Israeli tanks now very close to Shifa Hospital. That's right in the heart of Gaza City. Local people saying that there was heavy Israeli bombardment over the past few hours.
Recapping the top story, National Police Commissioner Fani Masamula says phone records obtained from murder-accused Vusumuzi Matlala have implicated suspended Deputy Police Commissioner Shadrack Sibiya in the disbandment of the KwaZulu-Natal Political Killings Task Team. I'm Ondilambana for SFM News Headlines at 4:30.
In sports this hour, Zimbabwe to host a World Cup qualifier at Moses Mabhida Stadium. Erasmus makes 2 injury force changes to big Argentina test, and baby Proteas looking to continue with winning ways. More details at 4:30.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Good afternoon. Starting off in Gauteng, the N3 southbound in Alexandra has a crash before London Road. All lanes are open. The R511 in Hartbeespoort, slow moving between the R513 and R514 junctions. And Eskamperleli Drive northbound in Pretoria has delays towards Moot Street. In KZN, the N2 southbound, a stationary vehicle before Spaghetti Junction queuing traffic, and Dumgeni Road westbound, slow moving through Springfield Park. In Cape Town, the N2 outbound slow moving towards Bunga Avenue, the N1 outbound is slow moving towards Okavango Road, and Batengracht Street outbound slow moving towards Elevated Freeway. With your traffic update, I'm Irma G.
The National Pulse with Ashraf Garda on SAFM. You're listening to the National Pulse. Weekdays, 3 to 6 p.m.
So seriously, what else are we going to be talking about? And we should talk about many things. There's lots of things happening at the United Nations, as you're well aware of, as part of the UN General Assembly debate. There are many other South Africans on the periphery of all that. But also the issues that came through yesterday, again, confirmation, one country after another, for the very first time, agreeing that their acceptance of Palestine as a state, but it does come with conditions. So it's an interesting thought on that one there. Then we're going to talk about goings on in West Africa later on, where 3 countries, Burkina Faso, Niger, and there's one other, all in that region. They've actually kicked out, or they've withdrawn from the ICC, the International Criminal Court. So Mali, Burkina Faso, Niger. We will talk about that too. There's more to come from your side too. Now let's do this. Firstly, and how is the story really? The Mpumalanga High Court has been hearing the late former deputy President David Mabuza's daughter's urgent application. So it's her urgent application to block the release of his pension to Mabuza's widow, who is her stepmother. So why? What's at stake here? Motsebi Monareng is the SABC News reporter in Mpumalanga covering that story. Motsebi, appreciate you connecting with us on the National Pulse.
Thanks very much for having me.
Thank you.
Good afternoon to your listeners.
All right. So, I mean, this is a most interesting story of obviously money issues. First of all, what's the estate worth? I mean, in terms of blocking the release of his pension, what's his pension worth?
Look, let me just firstly clarify that all of us journalists and the public out there, I think, we're of the view that we are talking about the estate. but it emerged in court this morning that, in fact, the money that we are talking about here is just a mere investment which the late Deputy President David Mabuza contributed during his life with the financial institution. It's not the whole estate which he is supposed to benefit. So basically, it was a mishap that it is the wealth or the portion or the money that is entitled for. This is just an investment.
Okay.
Which Mr. Mabuza
All right.
did.
Thanks for clearing that up. So, in terms of the investment that is now being debated, because the investment should be released then to the beneficiary, what is that investment worth? Did that come up today?
You know, the one that we are talking about, because the court had to separate both these investments. It says that let's currently focus on the investment which Mabuza did, the 44.7 million rand, which he made with Alexandra Forbes. So basically, we were focusing on that. The other one, it has not even emerged. It has never even discussed. I think it will be then dealt with at a later stage. And what happened today, the court could not arrive to a decision. They decided to reserve a judgment to say the financial institution should go bring its other documents, because the judge, Johannes Henk, indicated that there's a lot of discrepancies within the policy documents of the financial institution, also the scheduling of the policies. So that is why he says that not later than on Friday, they should be submitting those affidavits so that he can able to apply his mind and able to take
I understand. Okay.
decision.
So just to confirm, if I heard you correctly, you're saying in terms of this particular investment in question, we're talking about something like 44 million rands, right? I mean, that's the worth of that investment, yeah?
Absolutely, yes.
Okay. It's a huge amount. Now, there's clearly a dispute. What's the story?
Another thing that came there is that the judge also said they wanted to know whether it was a life insurance investment, or because there's no clear indication of what exactly the money was because of the situation. Now, the legal representative of Tamara Slinda argues that despite all this, the dependents also, they do have the right to benefit from the money. However, in the document itself, it shows that Patience is the one that Mr. Mabuza nominated to benefit out of this money. So then clearly you can see that there is this legal dispute. And Section 37C of this patient funds, they say that there should be an investigation. All dependents should benefit out of this. But this one is a different compared to the pension. So it raises a lot of questions, but we believe that come Friday, when they've submitted all these documents, and then on Monday, the legal representative of Tamara as well, they should also make submissions immediately after Tuesday. The judge will come and give a ruling whether Tamara and the other siblings, they should also benefit from this fund.
Okay. And I mean, in terms of the siblings who've put the request to actually block the distribution right now, what is their motivation for doing that? What are they saying?
They are saying that it's their father, and during his while he was on this planet, he was taking care of them. Therefore, they believe that they should also benefit out of this. But among other things, I think just immediately after the burial of Mabuza, I think there was a family dispute, I believe, because some of them, when we spoke to them this morning, they're saying that, look, we left immediately after the burial and we were ordered not to come back to the farm. So definitely we're hoping that maybe after 3 months we'll be able to sit down and discuss these issues. However, if it was not Tamara's move to take the matter to court, possible if payouts were made within 48 hours, it means this money would have been paid in patients' accounts. Therefore, they could not even go into benefit out of it. So you can see now there's a war in the family. And we spoke to the little sister of Mabuza, Zandile Mabuza, who says, you know what, they are rallying behind the children, they are supporting the children. They believe that this matter perhaps it could have been resolved amicably within the family.
Mm.
But it tells you that now there's a war that has been drawn between these families, between the families. Therefore,
Wow.
that is all the
And we'll find out more about that war on Friday. Motsebi Monarang, the SABC News reporter in Mpumalanga, much appreciate your time. Now, as I mentioned, there's so much happening around the world. The President of the United States of America, Donald Trump, has been addressing the General Assembly of the United Nations. I mean, his first line is, "A year ago, we were in trouble." Let's cross to his address.
This open border policy of the Biden administration. Our message is very simple. If you come illegally into the United States, you're going to jail or you're going back to where you came from, or perhaps even further than that. You know what that means. I want to thank the country of El Salvador for the successful and professional job they've done in receiving and jailing so many criminals that entered our country. And it was under the previous administration that the number became record-setting, and they're all being taken out. We have no choice. And other countries have no choice because other countries are in the exact same situation with immigration. It's destroying your country, and you have to do something about it. On the world stage, America is respected again like it has never been respected before. You think about 2 years ago, 3 years ago, 4 years ago, or 1 year ago, we were a laughingstock all over the world. At the NATO summit in June, virtually all NATO members formally committed to increase defense spending at my request from 2% to 5% of GDP, making our alliance far stronger and more powerful than it was ever before. In May, I traveled to the Middle East to visit my friends and rebuild our partnerships in the Gulf, and those valued relationships with Saudi Arabia, Qatar, and the UAE and other countries are now, I believe, closer than ever before. My administration has negotiated one historic trade deal after another, including with the United Kingdom, the European Union, Japan, South Korea, Vietnam, Indonesia, the Philippines, Malaysia, and many, many others. Likewise, in a period of just 7 months, I have ended 7 unendable wars. They said they were unendable. You're never going to get them solved. Some were going for 31 years, 2 of them, 31, think of it, 31 years. One was 36 years. One was 28 years. I ended 7 wars. And in all cases, they were raging with countless thousands of people being killed. This includes Cambodia and Thailand, Kosovo and Serbia, the Congo and Rwanda, a vicious, violent war that was, Pakistan and India, Israel and Iran, Egypt and Ethiopia, and Armenia and Azerbaijan. It included all of them. No president or prime minister, and for that matter, no other country has ever done anything close to that. And I did it in just 7 months. It's never happened before. There's never been anything like that. I'm very honored to have done it. It's too bad that I had to do these things instead of the United Nations doing them. And sadly, in all cases, the United Nations did not even try to help in any of them. I ended 7 wars, dealt with the leaders of each and every one of these countries, and never even received a phone call from the United Nations offering to help in finalizing the deal. All I got from the United Nations was an escalator that on the way up stopped right in the middle. If the First Lady wasn't in great shape, she would have fallen, but she's in great shape. We're both in good shape. We both stood. And then a teleprompter that didn't work. These are the 2 things I got from the United Nations, a bad escalator and a bad teleprompter. Thank you very much. And by the way, it's working now. It just went on. Thank you. I think I should just do it the other way. It's easier. Thank you very much. I didn't think of it at the time because I was too busy working to save millions of lives. That is the saving and stopping of these wars. But later I realized that the United Nations wasn't there for us. They weren't there. I thought of it really after the fact, not during these negotiations, which were not easy. That being the case, what is the purpose of the United Nations? The UN has such tremendous potential. I've always said it. It has such tremendous, tremendous potential, but it's not even coming close to living up to that potential. For the most part, at least for now, all they seem to do is write a really strongly worded letter and then never follow that letter up. It's empty words, and empty words don't solve war. The only thing that solves war and wars is action. Now, after ending all of these wars and also earlier negotiating the Abraham Accords, which is a very big thing for which our country received no credit, never receives credit. Everyone says that I should get the Nobel Peace Prize for each one of these achievements. But for me, the real prize will be the sons and daughters who live to grow up with their mothers and fathers, because millions of people are no longer being killed in endless and unglorious wars. What I care about is not winning prizes, it's saving lives. We saved millions and millions of lives with the 7 wars. And we have others that we're working on, and you know that. Many years ago, a very successful real estate developer in New York, known as Donald J. Trump, I bid on the renovation and rebuilding of this very United Nations complex. I remember it so well. I said at the time that I would do it for $500 million, rebuilding everything. It would be beautiful. I used to talk about, I'm going to give you marble floors. They're going to give you terrazzo. I'm going to give you the best of everything. You're going to have mahogany walls. They're going to give you plastic. But they decided to go in another direction, which was much more expensive at the time, and which actually produced a far inferior product. And I realized that they did not know what they were doing when it came to construction, and that their building concepts were so wrong, and the product that they were proposing to build was so bad and so costly. It was going to cost them a fortune. And I said, and wait till you see the overruns. Well, I turned out to be right. They had massive cost overruns and spent between $2 and $4 billion on the building and did not even get the marble floors that I promised them. You walk on terrazzo. Do you notice that? As far as I'm concerned, frankly, looking at the building and getting stuck on the escalator, they still haven't finished the job. They still haven't finished. That was years ago. The project was so corrupt that Congress actually asked me to testify before them on the tremendous waste of money, because it turned out that they had no idea what it was, but they knew it was anywhere between $2 and $4 billion as opposed to $500 million with a guarantee. But they had no idea, and I said it cost much more than $5 billion. Unfortunately, many things in the United Nations are happening just like that, but on an even much bigger scale, much, much bigger. Very sad to see. Whether the UN can manage to play a productive role, I've come here today to offer the hand of American leadership and friendship to any nation in this assembly that is willing to join us in forging a safer, more prosperous world. And it's a world that we'll be much happier with. A dramatically better future is within our reach. But to get there, we must reject the failed approaches of the past and work together to confront some of the greatest threats in history. There is no more serious danger to our planet today than the most powerful and destructive weapons ever devised by man, of which the United States, as you know, has many. Just as I did in my first term, I've made containing these threats a top priority, starting with the nation of Iran. My position is very simple. The world's #1 sponsor of terror can never be allowed to possess the most dangerous weapon. That's why, shortly after taking office, I sent the so-called Supreme Leader a letter making a generous offer. I extended a pledge of full cooperation in exchange for a suspension of Iran's nuclear program. The regime's answer was to continue their constant threats to their neighbors and U.S. interests throughout the region and some great countries that are right nearby. Today, many of Iran's former military commanders, in fact, I can say almost all of them, are no longer with us. They're dead. And 3 months ago, in Operation Midnight Hammer, 7 American B-2 bombers dropped the 14 30,000-pound each bombs on Iran's key nuclear facilities, totally obliterating everything. No other country on earth could have done what we did. No other country has the equipment to do what we did. We have the greatest weapons on earth. We hate to use them. But we did something that for 22 years people wanted to do. With Iran's nuclear enrichment capacity demolished, I immediately brokered an end to the 12-day war, as it's called, between Israel and Iran, with both sides agreeing to fight no longer. As everyone knows, I have also been deeply engaged in seeking a ceasefire in Gaza. Have to get that done. Have to get it done. Unfortunately, Hamas has repeatedly rejected reasonable offers to make peace. We can't forget October 7th, can we? Now, as if to encourage continued conflict, some of this body is seeking to unilaterally recognize a Palestinian state. The rewards would be too great for Hamas terrorists for their atrocities. This would be a reward for these horrible atrocities, including October 7th, even while they refuse to release the hostages or accept a ceasefire. Instead of giving to Hamas and giving so much, because they've taken so much, they have taken so much. This could have been solved so long ago. But instead of giving in to Hamas's ransom demands, those who want peace should be united with one message: release the hostages now. Just release the hostages now. Thank you. Thank you. As we have got to come together, and we will come together, going to get it done, we have to stop the war in Gaza immediately. We have to stop it. We have to get it done. We have to negotiate, immediately have to negotiate peace. We got to get the hostages back. We want all 20 back. We don't want 2 and 4. As you know, I got, along with Steve Witkoff and others that helped us, Marco Rubio, we got most of them back. We were involved in all of them. But I always said the last 20 are going to be the hardest, and that's exactly what happened. We have to get them back now. We don't want to get back 2, and then another 2, and then 1, and then 3. Have this process. No, we want them all back, and we want the actually 38 dead bodies back, too. Those parents came to me, and they want them back, and they want them back very quickly and very badly. As though they were alive, they want them. They want them every bit as much as if their son or daughter were alive. I've also been working relentlessly, stopping the killing in Ukraine. I thought that would be, of the 7 wars that I stopped, I thought that would be the easiest because of my relationship with President Putin, which had always been a good one. I thought that was going to be the easiest one. But, you know, in war, you never know what's going to happen. There are always lots of surprises, both good and bad. Everyone thought Russia would win this war in 3 days, but it didn't work out that way. It was supposed to be just a quick little skirmish. It's not making Russia look good. It's making them look bad. No matter what happens from here on out, this was something that should have taken a matter of days, certainly less than a week, and they've been fighting for 3.5 years and killing anywhere from 5,000 to 7,000 young soldiers, mostly soldiers, on both sides, every single week, from 5,000 to 7,000 dead young people, and some in cities, much smaller numbers, where rockets are shot. where drones are dropped. This war would never have started if I were president. This was a war that should have never happened. It shows you what leadership is, what bad leadership can do to a country. Look what happened to the United States, and look where we are right now in just a short period of time. The only question now is how many more lives will be needlessly lost on both sides. China and India are the primary funders of the ongoing war by continuing to purchase Russian oil. But inexcusably, even NATO countries have not cut off much Russian energy and Russian energy products, which, as you know, I found out about 2 weeks ago, and I wasn't happy. Think of it. They're funding the war against themselves. Who the hell ever heard of that one? In the event that Russia is not ready to make a deal to end the war, then the United States is fully prepared to impose a very strong round of powerful tariffs, which would stop the bloodshed, I believe, very quickly. But for those tariffs to be effective, European nations, all of you are gathered here right now, would have to join us in adopting the exact same measures.
Okay, and there we are.
Much closer to this
Donald Trump
between
addressing the United Nations General Assembly, the 80th session of the UN General Assembly, and there's lots that he said, and we can digest all of that, and you can comment about that too, right? But right now there are other developments locally and globally, but let's stay local for the moment with Ondela Mbana.
Thank you, Ashraf. On the news headlines, National Police Commissioner Fani Masebula says phone records obtained from murder-accused Vusumuzi Cat Matlala have implicated suspended Deputy Police Commissioner Shadrack Sibiya and the disbandment of the KwaZulu-Natal Political Killings Task Team. The backlog in pathology services has reached a breaking point at Charlotte Maxeke Academic Hospital in Johannesburg, where critical cancer diagnoses are being delayed. And African countries have been urged to collaborate and trade as one with other major economies around the world. A full update follows at the top of the hour with Greg Rose.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Good afternoon. Starting off in Gauteng, the N1 southbound in Midrand, slow moving towards Buccleuch interchange. The R24 westbound in Edenvale, queuing towards the N12 highway merge, and Malibongwe Drive westbound in Sharon Lee, slow moving at President Fashier Drive. In KZN, the N3 eastbound is stationary track after Kato Ridge exit. The N3 is slow moving on the link to the N2 north at Spaghetti Junction, and on the N2 southbound, a crash reported after the M41 gateway exit. In Cape Town, the N2 Nelson Mandela Boulevard outbound has a stationary bus before Hospital Bend reported. The N1 inbound is where a crash is reported. That's after the N7 checks Harville Drive and the M3 northbound queuing towards Hospital Bend. With your traffic update, I'm Irma G.
This is SAFM Sports with Tuming Kapele.
I tell you what, whatever Zimbabwe does affects us no matter where they play.
Absolutely. A very good afternoon to you, Ashraf, and our listeners. Well, Zimbabwe have confirmed that their World Cup qualifier home match against Bafana Bafana will be played in South Africa at the Moses Mabhida Stadium. The venue for Zimbabwe's upcoming qualifier has been a big talking point, with Zim's Football Federation avoiding to give Bafana a home ground advantage. I do know that they wanted to play the game in Botswana. However, FIFA did say it's virtually impossible, and they are forced to play it in South Africa. Meanwhile, Bafana head coach Hugo Bruce has announced his 45-man preliminary squad for the World Cup qualifiers doubleheader against Zimbabwe and Rwanda next month. Notable inclusion is Spepele Stole, who returns to the side for the first time since his long injury. And South Africa, remember, they top Group C with 17 points. Meanwhile, Kaizer Chiefs goalkeeper Brandon Peterson says that coaches come and go, but the most important thing for them is to concentrate on their next game and deliver for the team when called upon to do so.
I think at the end of the day, it's football, you know. Coaches come, coaches go. At the end of the day, I think for us, the main thing is to stay focused. You know, we have obviously back-to-back games, and I think for us, it's important to try and keep the team, make sure we stay in it, you know, because obviously we have a job in hand. At the end of the day, our job is to play football. and make the supporters happy. So I think that's the main focus for now, and looking forward to the next fixture, going out and doing our best.
Well, let's move on to rugby, where Springbok coach Rassie Erasmus has made 2 forced changes due to injury and a positional switch to his starting lineup for their rugby championship clash against Argentina at the Kings Park in Durban on Saturday. Experienced lock Eben Elizabeth and centre Damian Dialandi returned in place of Loot de Jager and Apalele Fassi, who were both injured in the Box 43-10 victory over the All Blacks in Wellington. Dialandi slots in at inside centre, while Damian Willemse shifts to fullback after wearing the number 12 jersey at the Cape Town. There's 3 changes to his bench, which will once again feature a 5-3 split. Bowen Venter returns at prop with Jan-Hendrik Wessels providing cover at hooker, while scrum half Monet van der Berg takes over from the injured Grant Williams. In tennis, Coco Gauff is preparing to return to action at the China Open, though the American star has admitted that she is approaching the tournament with a different mindset. The 21-year-old enters the event as the defending champion, but she confessed that she does not feel like one this time around, instead treating the competition more as a practice tournament. Then ending things off with tennis, baby Proteas captain Poppy says that respecting every match and not undermining opponents has been key to helping the team secure 2 straight wins at the 2025 Netball World Youth Cup.
We had a really good game. We really executed everything we put. We had boxes that we had to tick, and I think we really ticked all those boxes. And we had an opportunity for every player to take court today. And I'm really proud of the girls of how we stepped onto the court. We respected our opponent, and we really played a really good game of netball. We're really enjoying it out there on court. And I'm super, super proud of the girls for playing the way we're playing and just enjoying it and embracing every single moment of playing at the world-class netball.
That's it from my side for now. I'll have more in the next hour.
Hold it. What about Ousmane Dembele?
Obviously, I did say that he's going to win.
So I'm giving you the chance to...
A big
to
congratulations
rave about
to
it.
him. And I know that Lamine Yamal's dad has been very vocal, saying the award went to the wrong player. His son deserved to win.
Can't the parents stay out of this? More sport.
The Blues fully get it that victory at Stamford Bridge brings more joy to their fans.
As this corner goes into the centre, and there is João Pedro!
But the Seagulls want to avoid mistakes and deliver an excellent game plan.
James Milner with a little shuffle, the run up, and into the bottom corner. Beautifully converted by James Milner against his former club.
This is the Premier League. Experience Chelsea FC versus Brighton and Hove Albion FC on Saturday, 27 September at 3:30 p.m. Live on SABC3 and SABC Plus. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport. For the love of the game.
Spar brings you super savings. Like 2-ply Baby Soft toilet rolls, 18s for $124.99, and get 300 megs free data on Spar Mobile, or 3 kg Sunlight hand wash powder for $79.99, and get 200 megs free data on Spar Mobile. Plus, you could win your share of 6 million rand in instant cash. Competition ends 7 October. Price is valid 23 September to 7 October 2025. While stocks last. T's and C's apply.
Economic news on SAFM. Facts and figures you can count on.
Right, as always, we have Makwe Masilela with us. Makwe, you've got news local and global, but let's start with significant yearly results from Remgro.
Yes, Ashraf, Remgro, an investment holding company which increased profits as headline earnings per share by 38%, and that was due to increased contributions coming from the likes of Mediclinic, Outcherons, Rainbow Chicken, RCL Foods, as these investee companies improved operational performance, and also Heineken returned to profitability driven by volume growth and margin recovery, but this was partly offset by lower contributions coming from Total Energies and lower dividends coming out of Momentum Platinum Group, and they are lower. They had a lower finance cost because they managed to redeem the preference shares, and their dividend per share was up 34%. And Ashraf, we wonder what will stop the current stock market rally, but trading will potentially continue to be volatile, as so far most Fed speakers were hawkish, and today is their chairman who's speaking. Then on Friday we get the key U.S. inflation data, which is expected to be the main event for this week, and market participants will be watching for any inflationary effects from higher U.S. trade tariffs. Locally, our leading economic indicator rose by 0.9% in July, marking the second month in a row of increases, and that was led by higher U.S. dollar-denominated export commodity prices and stronger growth in passenger vehicle sales. And the OECD today said, warning us that Trump's tariffs will damage the world economy, and oil prices are up after a deal to resume oil exports from Iraq, pacifying some investor concerns that the restart will add to global oversupply fears. Brent crude is up 1.7% at $67 a barrel. Gold prices climbed to new record levels, and because of the increased safe haven demand, as recent comments from Fed officials sparked some caution over future interest rate cuts. Gold is up 0.7% at $3,774, and platinum up 4% at $1,477. Fed chairman's speech is in the spotlight, but in the meantime, global stocks continue to reach record highs, with the JSE up 0.8% led by resources, and the rand fell to 0.4% against the US dollar, is now 17.25, 23.33 against the pound, and 20.36 against the euro.
Okay, got all of that. Thank you for that, Markwe. Tomorrow's a public holiday, so very, very different. But we do have another round of the markets coming up from 6 to 7 tonight with Jimmy Moyaha. Right, it means later on we'll have a chance to talk to you. But we want to do a recap of what's happened today at the Madlanga Commission. And that comes up next.
Ashraf Garda is streaming live now on Facebook, YouTube, and X at SAFM Radio.
Okay, in fact, what we'll do is let's start with some voice notes. Then we will chat to Dr. Dale McKinley, giving us his thoughts on today's proceedings, right? But I need to hear you. You're on the pulse. Here it is.
When Trump says long time ago they were laughingstock, but now they are respected, I just laughed. I think that they are a laughingstock right now, and he's just not aware of it. And every time he talks, it sounds like a Home Alone movie.
Okay, there we are. We were the laughingstock, and you're laughing at that. Got that.
Hi, Ashraf Errol, yeah. Why I said interesting is because I didn't find it as explosive and gripping as Mkonasi's speech the past 2 days. It was, I think he took all the gloss off it. That's I knew you wouldn't agree with me and a lot of people, but that's my opinion, and I'll stick by it. Earl, Durban.
Well, good that you are sticking by them. I mean, that's really the whole plan. I can't tell you what to think, right? I just did find that interesting is like almost insipid. But I mean, I hear you. If some days are more boring than other days, then so be it, right?
Good afternoon, Mr. Ashraf Mbongo Sonisa here. You see, Mr. Trump, I think now he wants the support to get the Nobel Peace Prize because he says it's ended like wars that took more than 31 years. And as for immigrants, he's telling the truth. These people are destroying countries. We've got problem of Zimbabwe. Have you seen the video of Tudula and Peter Marisbeck yesterday and today? Scores of Zimbabweans who don't have papers. Then you ask yourself, where are the police? Why are they not being able to detect these people? Hey, our country's a mess, and we've got Ramaphosa who will keep quiet. Oh, this president, icon.
Hey, you got problems with so many things. This Ramaphosa icon. Okay, there's more.
Ashraf, where are we living? Like, honestly, there's so many things that are going on in this world, and we talk about the marbles, the construction of the UN. what's going on? I'm just lost for words. Children die in Uganda and Ghana because of the aids that were cut by the United States through the US aid. And we're talking about marbles and the Nobel Peace Prize. Please just help me understand. This is Tabiso.
Well, Tsepiso helped me understand it as well. I think the world is just full of these conflicts, aren't they? And you're right about the aid cuts that can impact societies. And, South Africa is very, very concerned about that too in terms of what impact that will have because it compromises healthcare. I mean, the broader issue is like we are so dependent on the USA. I mean, let's admit that and agree. And it's not a good thing. But at this point in time, when you're dependent, aren't you?
Good day, Ashraf. You're speaking to Anonymous here from Cape Town. I just want to make a comment regarding to Donald Trump. The one thing about him is that he put his country and their citizens first. The one thing we can never credit our president for is that he is not decisive. He cannot and will never put his people first. So I like Donald Trump because for him it's all about Americans. America first.
But, I mean, here's the question. When you say he's decisive, you may well be right. But decisive doesn't actually mean right. I mean, maybe think about some of his pronouncements and his policies since he's come into power in, version 2, right? And tell me which ones you think he's got spot on and which ones he's got wrong. Never mind that he's been decisive. I'll give you that. Decisive doesn't always mean right. Right. We need to recap on the goings on today at the Madlanga Commission. That comes up next.
This Heritage Month, SAFM invites you to journey into the past while shaping the future under the theme Reimagine Our Heritage Institutions for a New Era. We celebrate the stories, traditions, and voices that define who we are as a nation. From vibrant conversations to thought-provoking debates, SAFM is where heritage meets innovation, connecting generations and keeping our culture alive in a changing world. SAFM, leading the conversations that move us.
If you think you cannot afford a lawyer, think again. Clientele Legal has made professional legal services affordable for you. Whether it's a civil, criminal, or labor-related matter, we have a nationwide panel of attorneys standing by to assist you. SMS SAFM to 32195. That's SAFM to 32195 and we'll call you back. Clientele General is a licensed non-life insurer and an authorized FSP. Standard rates and terms and conditions apply.
Get down to Dis-Chem this Friday 26th to Sunday 28th September for our 1 weekend only 2+1 cheapest free deals on the widest range of sports supplements and energy drinks from top brands like Biogen, NPL, USN, Primal, Optimum Nutrition, MuscleTech, 32GI and more. Get expert advice from our in-store consultants to help you reach your health and fitness goals. Excludes all advertised products. Only at Dis-Chem. Better health starts here.
Okay, we've been talking about this before, and let me just remind you once again. The Spar Baby Proteas will take part, and they've been taking part, in fact, in the Netball World Youth Cup in Gibraltar. That started a few days ago, goes up to the 28th of September. Now, these are our rising stars. So, #TogetherWeRise, brought to you by the Department of Sport, Arts and Culture.
SAFM has signed a code of conduct that is enforced by the Broadcasting Complaints Commission of South Africa. Under the code, we are committed to giving news that is accurate, comment that is fair, and programming that is not harmful, does not amount to hate speech, or contain violence or explicit sex. If you think we are not living up to that code, then you can inform the Broadcasting Complaints Commission of South Africa. Direct any complaints in writing to the Broadcasting Complaints Commission of South Africa. PO Box 142365. Craig Hall 2024. Fax to 011-326-3198 or an email to bccsa@nabsa.co.za. For more information, please visit www.bccsa.co.za.
The National Pulse with Ashraf Garda. Weekdays, 3 to 6 p.m.
Right, so today the Madlanga Commission, the hearings ended early, around just about 3:30ish, and it'll resume on Thursday, in fact. Tomorrow, of course, being Heritage Day. We can talk about heritage as well just now. But I suppose in many ways these commissions reflect our own heritage too, right? And I wonder what you make of what's happened today. Of course, we've had many people responding, and I've asked you for one word that best describes the goings-on for today, being day 5. Perhaps let's start with that, keeping in mind it's been another day of testimony from Lieutenant General Fani Masemola, right? With me is Dr. Dale McKinley. He's an independent writer, researcher, political analyst, and research and education officer at the International Labour Research and Information Group. Dr. McKinley, Dale, good to connect with you as always on the National Pulse.
Thanks, Ashraf. Always good to be here. Thank you to your listeners as well.
Thank you. So you're a man of many titles. We'll start with just one. One word to describe today?
I think contradictory. I think that would be what I would describe it as. I think what we got from both Mkhwanazi and Masemola is a particular story, which is very interesting. I mean, there's a lot of allegations, a lot of particular things that they've made, claims about. But Masemola has contradicted himself on more than one occasion with relation to some of the answers he's made, and he hasn't said a great deal. Hasn't said a great deal about the actual track record of the political killings task team, which I think is another story that is yet to be told. So I think it's early days. It's too difficult right now and too early to say where this is going to go, because I'm sure there's going to be a lot of comeback on some of the allegations that they're making, not only from Chunu, but from others, including, by the way, violence monitor Mary DeHaas, who's made very serious and damning allegations against Mkhwanazi and the task team themselves.
Okay, let's just talk a bit more detail about the contradictory or the contradictions that you talk about. Give me some examples.
Yeah, so I think the first one was yesterday in particular. Basically, Masemola said, no, look, the minister instructed me to disband this task team, and I thought this was unlawful. It was executive overreach. He tried to paint the minister as basically interfering in operational things. And then later on, he basically said, well, actually, I then essentially went about and said, I'm going to try to phase this disbandment out, and I was going to instruct my subordinates to basically carry it out. And he was asked, well, isn't there a contradiction there? Which, of course, there was. And I think also in terms of the picture that he's painted with Sibiya today as well, he's basically gone after Sibiya and essentially tried to paint him as someone who potentially might be wrapped up in criminal cartels or protecting. And yet when we first started this, with this whole thing when Mkhwanazi came out, basically he defended Sibiya. So there seems to be a back and forth, I think, as this plays itself out, as I mentioned, those two contradictions. And I think there's also some contradictions that he's talked about that have come out with regards to the performance of the political task team, which he's basically presented as being almost beyond reproach, which, of course, it is not.
Now, I mean, we've had many different comments from other people, from, phrases like interesting to disappointing to disgruntled to hopeful to, uncertainty. And I mean, this one great line from Kaya, who said Masemola exuded the aura of defeat. So let me ask you about that. Did he exude the aura of defeat?
I don't think so. I think what he's probably exuding is the aura of someone who's, our police services are in crisis. I mean, and to be the national commissioner of the police service, which is not going well on a range of different fronts, I'm sure he's exhausted. I'm sure he's probably, he's probably wanting to retire tomorrow in that context, because I think it's a factional battle. What you can see, the factions are taking space, and that takes up huge amounts of time and energy. And my sense is that Masemola is not, I'm not sure he's up to the task of running the police services as they should be run. And I'm not sure that many of the senior leadership, given the track record of the last several years, are up to this task. So now that they're in the spotlight, I think they're feeling the heat.
I mean, that's an interesting point, because one is the actual inquiry and therefore investigations that may come out of it. But the other, and this may be one of the unintended issues that's come out of this inquiry, is simply observing these, let's call them big hitters, in the public space and see how convincing or unconvincing they are. You're already saying, in fact, Masemola doesn't appear up for the task at all. Do you think that alone could provide a shake-up? It's almost like they are when you think about in the theatre, you get cast for a role and you have to actually do the dress or the dry run. And in terms of that dry run or dress rehearsal, they're failing.
I think so. I mean, look, Makwenazi definitely cuts a fairly confident figure. I mean, he's a very good speaker. I think he comes across as fairly confident. And otherwise, he's a bit of a different kettle of fish, I think, in that regard. And I think he's decided to go on the offensive, which is interesting. We'll see how that plays out. But I think, generally speaking, that the SAP's top brass have a lot to answer for. We sometimes we've isolated this issue of Makwenazi's allegations and the Madlanga Commission from the larger crisis within SAPS. If one looks at simply the statistics over the last 3 years of our crimes, almost all of them have gone up. We're getting worse. Our crime situation is not good. Most people have lost trust in the police. So these are the larger kinds of backdrops on which this is taking place. And I think they're feeling that. Makwenazi, I think, we'll see if he lost and that confidence and that offensiveness lost for a long time. But I think Masemola is looking like a tired man.
Okay, you did say it's early days. I mean, how soon, let's say for someone like yourself who does a lot of research into this, right? How soon before you can spot a lasting trend in terms of where this entire commission will then end, and in terms of the impact that it may truly have?
Yeah, that's a difficult question to answer, Ashraf, but I think let's wait and see, the main, first of all, Mchunu. Mchunu's got to come up. Once he testifies, we'll see what he has to say, because he's going to have to answer some very, very specific allegations. Let's see how convincing he is. I think Mary de Haater's testimony, which is going to come, or at least consideration of a lot of the things she's given to the commission, will be very interesting, as well as some of the other SAPS members and people, politicians as well, who've been mentioned in a lot of these things. I'm not sure all the different witnesses are going to be there, but I would probably say within the next several weeks, we should get a fairly clear picture. I mean, most ordinary people are going to be able to tell whether there's, if there's just smoke or if there's actual fire, because many of these allegations are based upon WhatsApp messages and other kinds of things that are not particularly, right now in a court of law, wouldn't be particularly convincing. So I think there's got to be more that's going to have to be revealed for most people to say, okay, we're now believing that these allegations have really real content. But clearly, I think what this has already shown us is that the police service is heavily factionalized and it's politicized. And this has always been the problem. This is nothing new. It started all the way back about 15 to 20 years ago with Richard Mdluli and the Crime Intelligence Network, and it's been continuing for the last couple of decades.
If you look at if you look at a rugby or football team and you find there's sort of different camps, it's a guaranteed failure, because you just cannot function like that, right? So in the light of what you've mentioned, and there's not a moment that someone calls in, even today, the oft repeated question like, what's going to happen next? Is it all worth it? What are they going to do about all these allegations, right? So, but your thought, therefore, having already seen how factionalized the police service is, right? I mean, it's easy to understand why there's been a complete breakdown, which then also tells you that, however long this commission takes, 6 months, we know we have an acting minister of police, that they would be watching and I would think making decisions now instead of, in football terms, waiting for next season, because you just can't wait that long.
Yeah, I would imagine so, particularly given that the local government elections are around the corner and there's politics involved. There always is. Perceptions of being seen to act. I mean, one of the biggest criticisms of our president has been that he's been slow to act on anything and seems to be oftentimes asleep at the wheel. Well, let's see if this sort of wakes him up or whether or not this is going to be another sort of long, drawn-out list of allegations with very little of it comes out of it. My sense is that the ruling party in particular, which is really the one that's in control here in terms of the politics of this, is feeling serious heat. Here in my city, of course, in Joburg, where we live, the people are so angry with the basic service situation that I think, it's getting to that point where if they don't act, if they don't be seen to be acting, and this could be one of the areas where they could possibly gain some political capital by doing so, then people are all going to just turn on them. And I think they're really going to pay a heavy price if they don't do so.
Well, I think you're spot on there. Action has to happen in some form or the other. Let me leave it with you to have some inaction over tomorrow, being a public holiday. Dr. Dale McKinley, thank you for your time. Much appreciated,
Thanks,
as always, connecting on the National Pulse. By the way, Donald Trump has been saying that climate change has been the biggest con, ever. There's more to come from him as well. We'll pick up comments as and when they come. But here's some more as we get to the news time.
Good day, Ashraf. You're speaking to Anonymous here from Cape Town. I just want to make a comment regarding to Donald Trump. The one thing about him is that he put his country and their citizens first. The one thing we can never credit our president for is that he is not decisive. He cannot and will never put his people first. So I like Donald Trump because for him it's all about Americans. America first.
All right. In fact, we did play that one earlier, and it's certainly not being replayed for emphasis, but I mean, you get the point.
Good afternoon, Ashraf. I still remember when all of the allegations come out regarding the Minister of Police, what the SG from the ANC said. His words was, yes, he might be put on special leave as a minister, but he is still performing his work in Parliament for the ANC. That makes me to think, knowing what is coming out of his commission already, and that the SG said that the minister will still be performing his duties. That doesn't sit well with me. Alistair from Cape Town.
Okay, there we are. Another perspective. And there are so many perspectives. I can tell you one thing very quickly. If we ever thought that there'll be a switch off regarding the Madlanga Commission, you've got to think again. And we see it simply by, we've been carrying this live, and the moment, a session ends and we open up the calls, the lines for calls, there's a flood. What it tells me is that moves the national pulse, and it tells me that you are completely connected to that, what moves the national pulse. So is Greg Host, of course. He's got the news at 5.
And thank you, Ashraf. In this latest news update, Masemola continues testimony on the political killings task team and a manhunt for killers of matric learner. Good day to you. The National Police Commissioner, Fanny Masemola, says phone records obtained from murder-accused Vusi Muzi Kat Matlala have implicated the suspended Deputy Police Commissioner Shadrack Sabia in the disbandment of the KwaZulu-Natal political task team. He's told the Matlanga Commission in Pretoria the directive to disband the task team came from the Police Minister, Senzo Mchunu.
These records suggest that Sabia's actions were not merely procedural but rather tied to deeper connections with individuals identified as members of the cartel. The timing and agency of his compliance appeared to align with imperatives to shield cartel members from ongoing investigation. This is the subject of an ongoing criminal investigations.
The backlog in pathology services has reached a breaking point at the Charlotte Maxeke Academic Hospital in Johannesburg, where critical cancer diagnoses are being delayed. More than 1,540 specimens await processing, while over 12,000 await analysis. Gauteng Health MEC Nomantun Komalarehoko.
Pathology results are critical indeed to the diagnosis and treatment of cancer patients. Our healthcare specialists continue to deliver necessary interventions and support, ensuring that all patients receive care, including radiation oncology treatment. As the department, then, we are also actively looking into the possibility of establishing our own laboratory to fast-track the processing of pathology specimens. We are working hand in hand with NLHS and other stakeholders to find sustainable solutions.
The DA in Swanes blamed the City Council for failing to budget for the replacement of specialised power cables. This comes after parts of Pretoria West and the CBD have been left in the dark since last week. The outage has affected thousands of households, businesses and government offices. The DA's Celia Brink has accused the ANC, EFF and Action SA coalition government of abandoning the budget for replacement cables.
This problem was entirely predictable. The DA and our coalition partners budgeted for those cable replacements, but that was taken off the budget. And now you have instances where businesses, such as the one that we visited this week, have to spend 25,000 Rand a day on generators just to keep the electricity on.
Police are looking for 5 suspects in connection with the death of a matric learner at the Humansdorp High School in the Eastern Cape. It's alleged the teen was stabbed to death on the school premises. Police spokesperson Majolen Kohle.
Information in police record indicates that on Tuesday, 23rd September, at about 8:15 in the morning, a violent altercation at the school among learners left one learner with stab wounds. The victim, 18-year-old, was declared dead on the scene. The 5 suspects are still at large and their arrest is imminent.
African countries have been urged to collaborate and trade as one with other major economies around the world. This came out of the South Africa-China Trade and Investment Promotion Conference in Johannesburg. The president of the Black Business Council, Elias Munage, says the G20 presidency also plays a key role.
There are 54 countries. On what basis then do we trade with Russia on equal footing as a continent, as opposed to individual countries dealing with China on bilateral or multilateral basis? We need then to look at this thing holistically as a continent. And therefore, for us, the G20 is one of the critical areas that South Africa, as the chair, we need then to bring the entire continent into the conversation as part of the outreach program.
Top story, the National Police Commissioner says phone records obtained from murder-accused Vuzamuzi Kat Matlala have implicated the suspended Deputy Police Commissioner Shadrack Sabia in the disbandment of the KZN Political Killings Task Team. That's SAFM News, I'm Greg Goss.
In sports this hour, SA Athletics team returns home from world champs. Erasmus makes 2 injury force changes for big Argentina test, and South Africa drawn against Montenegro for Davis Cup World Group T playoff. More details at 5:30.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Good afternoon. Starting off in Gauteng, the N3 southbound in Germiston, queuing towards Geltnes interchange, the M1 southbound slow moving towards Boysons, and the N12 R24 westbound in Bedfordview, queuing on both routes towards Giluli's interchange. In KZN, the N2 southbound has a stationary truck before Spaghetti Junction. Wakesley Road southbound is slow moving towards Sarnia Road. In Cape Town, Swartklip Road in Khayelitsha slow moving at Govan-Beki Road Junction. The N1 Service Road outbound is slow moving towards the N7 highway ramp, and the N2 Nelson Mandela Boulevard outbound, a stationary bus reported before Hospital Bend. With your traffic update, I'm Irma G.
The National Pulse with Ashraf Garda on SAFM. You're listening to the National Pulse, weekdays 3 to 6 p.m.
I tell you what, in typical, South African parlance, you could say Donald Trump is throwing let me say this again. Donald Trump is throwing bombs. That's been very South African. He really is, okay? We played some of that live, and we'll certainly pick out some of the other comments that he's made as well. So just to note that too, right? And there's more. I mean, there's just a whole range of other things that I think one can pick up on. Now, we're going to chat later on about the 3 countries that is part of the West African region, it's just off the Sahel. Mali, Burkina Faso, Niger, they've announced their withdrawal from the ICC, the International Criminal Court. What does all of that mean? We'll talk about that, not quite now, just now, but maybe closer to home. This will mean even more to you. There's a big conversation taking place around correctional services and more. With me to talk about it is Singabako Ngumalo, the spokesperson for the Department of Correctional Services. Much appreciate you connecting with us on the National Pulse. In fact, we're going to get to him now just in a moment. Let me do this. Before we get to him, there's a chance for me to pick some of your comments as well. So let's get to some of those voice notes.
Actually, Ashraf, for Shamila Bateau, who has failed dismally in her job, she's fallen flat in the face and has not been prosecuting people. She needs to be open about this process and to understand why she has failed in her job. Maybe she's been patrick, so she's refusing to open herself up to understanding that she was set up for failure. But that's on her. Thanks, Spongy here.
Good afternoon, Ashraf. I still remember when all of the allegations come out regarding the Minister of Police.
Ashraf Masemola seems to be under pressure. His management is not perfect, actually. You can hear that. But now, all the kind of worms would come from his boss, the Mchunu, and also the president. Also, it's slightly implicated in that. So normally people would be scared of their boss, scared that they will lose their jobs. That's how the cookies crumble. Thanks. It's Willie here in Kuma.
That's how the cookie or the... Do I say the cookie or the crookie crumble? Either way, they work, don't you think so? Right. Talking about the crookies, let's talk about correctional services. The big issue, there's the National Parole Review Summit that's been underway in Pretoria. So with me then, Singabako Ngumano, the spokesperson for the Department of Correctional Services. Appreciate you chatting to us here on the National Pulse.
A very good afternoon, and thank you for having us, Ashraf.
Thank you. So first of all, tell me about the summit. Why the need for it?
Ashraf, there's been a number of calls where people have been saying they're not happy with the way in which correctional services is processing the parole regime, and especially the victims of crime. And the public at large, some will even look at some of the parolees that will go back into the life of crime after being released. So as a department, we couldn't just sit back, fold our arms, and pretend as if we can't hear people talking. Hence, then we started on this project some years back, but we're now at a stage where we had to then call various stakeholders, academics, policymakers, everyone under one roof and say, let us look into this parole system. We are reviewing it, but we can't do it alone as correctional services. Your voices do matter, and we'll definitely value inputs. Hence, then, we had then the 2-day parole review summit.
Okay, so as you said, can't do it on your own. So who then attends the summit, and what is the actual format? Because we look at the numbers that are on paroles just now, but what is the format in terms of, points made and then what?
Okay. We really we went all out in terms of inviting various stakeholders. We didn't just focus in terms of your specialists when it comes to the disciplines that are related to corrections or just the criminal justice system as a whole. We didn't just look for lawyers, but we even went as far as behavioral studies disciplines as well, where we invited criminologists, psychologists, and all other disciplines are there, but also policymakers are there. We also invited even judges. They were part of that particular session, and just general, members, from the community. But we also invited victims of crime and parolees because they have what we then call lived experiences. It was important that we also hear from them. So it was a matter of then saying, with the parole system that we have in the country, where are these gaps and how best can we go about addressing them? Looking at the issue of, are we going for a legislative reform? Operationally, what is it that we need to do? But even in terms of resources, what is it that would be required so that we can come up with a parole reform that where people can indeed say we now have a system that is working for us.
Okay. Well, let's then talk about those numbers in terms of, people are obviously imprisoned. There's a sense of, the key word is not jail as we would call it, but like correctional services. So the plan is to correct what got them into prison in the first place, right? Now, then the key aspect of why parole, and I understand the numbers of parole offenders or re-offenders are dramatic. I mean, tell me about that.
Okay. Currently in South Africa, you have just over 160,000 offenders. I'm talking about people who are in our correctional facilities, 243 of them. But we then have a community which is serving their sentences out there, those being parolees. That number is about 550,000. It's a big number. And those people are out there because they are complying with their parole conditions. They are being monitored. So when you look at that, so it's a number that one cannot just look at it and say, no, all is well, let's just monitor the situation as is, because we continue to admit people on daily basis and place some out. And some of those people that we place out are the ones who then embarrass us. Hence, then, as a department, it was important that we look into our system and also invite people from outside.
But those numbers in terms of what we have, right, of those 55,000 parolees reoffended, that means 50% of the 55%. That is I'm reading it as incredibly high. Would others argue differently to say that you're being alarmist for no reason?
No, maybe I didn't get a question, Prof. I was giving you the 550,000. I'm talking about the parolees in the main. People who reoffend when out, our statistics point to just about 2% of them. Those are people who are not complying. But you then have to look at, when we say 550,000, what's the 2% of that? That will give you a bigger number when we talk about the actual case by case. So as a department, we often say, even if it is just one person that reoffends, it does disturb us, because some of them go out to commit even heinous crimes. It's something that we cannot ignore. And you often hear the victim saying that, I wanted to forget about the whole thing that happened to me. Now those old wounds are being reopened. I now have to come and face this person. I'm not ready for such. Hence, we then said, let us bring everyone, let us hear the victims and hear from them what is it that they will have to do. And most of them complained about being involved at the tail end of the process, saying that perhaps if we get involved much earlier, that will assist. Hence, then there was a strong call in terms of a victim-centric parole system. That resonated very well, saying that victims ought to play a much bigger role than what is happening currently. And others went on even to say that perhaps we need just a parole act that will not just look into correctional services, but also will look at the entire criminal justice system as a whole. And it's something that we're looking into, so that perhaps we'll have more in that particular act, so that we're then able to address a number of gaps that have been identified.
So, this point that you talk about, this victim-centric parole system, I know it's early days because it's been tabled. How do you see that, assuming that that's adopted or modified to fit that in, how do you see that then playing out and manifested?
What's happening is that more often we'll invite a victim of crime to come when an inmate is being considered for parole placement. And the victim has been in the dark in terms of what has been happening for all these years when this person was undergoing rehabilitation. It then becomes much harder for them to even try to understand and accept that indeed this is now a changed person. Hence then a call of saying, but do not sit, only invite us at the end. Let us be involved, in the journey of this person. Now it's a matter of saying, okay, what type of modalities do we put in place? But then there were even calls of saying that we must even review the type of correctional programs that we have. Crime has evolved. We now have new, I would say, crimes that were not so prominent in the past, extortions, cash in transit. In the main, how do you deal with those with people who are involved in those offences? So as a department, we are looking in terms of defense. We even call these specialists in saying that let us look into this, let us dissect it, and let us then come up with something that we will, I think as a country, will say, even if it's not perfect, but at least it is taking us somewhere where all voices will now have an equal chance. We even went on to hear some representation where some were even saying the parole boards must even be resourced much better, have some of the specialists even involved there, rather than just members from community. But what type of disciplines do we have there, so that when they look at the profile of an offender, they are better informed in terms of placing someone that is fully deserving to be considered, rather than someone who has just served the minimum required time.
Yeah, and just the last thing. What's the mood and the sense of the people, the delegates there? And I say that because we as we talk to you, there's a commission that's taking place, or an inquiry into a whole lot of issues around policing. You'd also think that people attending around the issues of parole, the principles are the same. That if this hearing or the parole summit is ineffective, then quickly people become very, very disillusioned, right? Do you get a sense that it's very result driven and therefore there's a huge commitment to say we want to change things for the better or not?
What was interesting here, day one, in most cases, you will have summits where the house is full. Day two, the numbers will start to dwindle. But what we had was something remarkable. The house was full yesterday, and today the house was full. We then had to break into different commissions. The level of participation was overwhelming. And what we then did there, even the people who are in charge of those commissions, it is not officials from correctional services. We had to look for some of the people that we invited, some who were doing presentations, so that the process is open. And the inputs that they then provided when they were reporting back were quite invaluable. Hence, even moving forward, we said, we are not going to shut the door and say, thank you very much for the input. But some of those people will be involved now moving forward, where we'll have now work teams focusing now in the areas that have been recommended, so that whatever that we have, we can then say, we now have a structure that we can take forward for an approval, so that the country can then have a parole system that is by far different from what we have currently, a parole system that is responsive to the needs that have been identified, but also that is sensitive to the cries of our people.
And I think that last line you've mentioned, I mean, that's the part that people need to make a note of, a commission that's sensitive to the cries of the people. So much appreciate your time, Singabako Ngumalo, the spokesperson for the Department of Correctional Services. Things have got to change, don't they? What about Burkina Faso? What about Mali? What about Niger? Well, they're changing things. We'll talk about that next.
Ashraf Garda is streaming live now on Facebook, YouTube, and X at SAFM Radio.
So why does a country withdraw from, any organization? And it could be something regional, it could be something national. What about an organization like the International Criminal Court? And to make the point, we're very aware of the ICJ, the International Court of Justice, which effectively rules on countries, and the ICC, which rules on individuals, right? So why do countries leave or withdraw from that? I understand the USA is not a signatory to the ICC anyway. Well, this applies now to Mali, Burkina Faso, and Niger. They've announced their withdrawal from the International Criminal Court, and we're going to talk about that in just a moment. But in the meantime, there has been a flood of comments from you, and we're certainly going to pick up on all of those. So let's get to that first.
Ashraf Masemola seems to be under pressure. His management is not perfect, actually. You can hear that. But now, all the kind of worms would come from his boss, the Mchunu. And also the president also it's slightly implicated in that. So normally people would be scared of their boss, scared that they will lose their jobs. That's how the cookies crumble. Thanks. It's Willie here in Kuma.
Okay, thanks for that, Willie. There's, in fact, more comments. Here's an interesting one from Fidel Hafford regarding the goings-on of the Joburg mayor, which is only going to happen in about a year's time, but already there's like a huge frenzy around that, right? And Fidel tweeted today saying, the thing that I've learned about Joburg is it doesn't need a political messiah or messianic politics. It's people with our resilience, our can-do spirit, and take no bullshit style. Need a local government that spends the 89 billion rand budget well and does not steal. A mayor not distracted by feudal politics. Councillors who are on the ball. Joburg needs to dismantle its entities and cull the corrupt administrators. Keep the good ones. Messiahs went out of fashion long time ago. People's power. Politicians are servants, not gods. Images from the most recent Joburg crisis meeting, an inspiring principle for a meaning. There's images about this Joburg alliance, about civil society, in fact, putting pressure on the city of Joburg to get their act together. I thought it's a very interesting take that she's made. Let's get to some of your calls. We go to Harry Smith. Now, we don't go to Harry Smith. I think we've just lost that call. Let's. In fact, we do now have our guest on the line. So to talk us through the withdrawal of Mali, Burkina Faso, and Niger from the International Criminal Court. We have African Affairs commentator Charles Nyankongwe. Charles, appreciate your time, as always, on the National Pulse.
Thank you so much for having me. Good afternoon to your listeners.
Thank you. So, first of all, is this a big deal or not?
It is once more a call or a clarion call for the ICC to reform what has been tinted about its image as one which is neo-colonial. However much we see it, however much we don't endorse movements such as what the AES countries are doing at the moment, there still is a reason to pause and say, ICC, why can't you do the same for other countries of the global north or of the west that violate human rights and go and get away with?
So when you say a need for reform and you threw in the word neo-colonial, what is your understanding of the current status quo of the workings of the ICC?
The current state of the workings of the IEC, in my view, are largely positive in the sense that the IEC is encouraging governance which is accountable to the people, which is responsive and respectful of the principles of human rights as they are enshrined in the Geneva Convention and other additional protocols that different states have ratified. However, the ICC remains a court for a few and not a court for all, to the extent that it is as such, and that members of the Security Council, including those who are non-members of the ICC, can make referrals to the ICC, and the ICC takes that serious. It begs the question, why would you take referrals from somebody or instructions from somebody who is not a member of the ICC, who even threatens judges of the ICC? But at the same time, those who have willfully endorsed the Treaty of Rome, that part of how you engage your business is punitive and it's not restorative, or it's inconsiderate of the needs of the people for peace and stability, which is, of course, far away from the situation of the AES country, which we can talk about.
All right, powerful quote. I mean, it remains a court for the few and not a court for all. But you're also saying it takes instructions from countries outside the ICC. So which are those countries, and why would the ICC do just that?
Well, if you take, for instance, the fact that countries like the United States have not ratified the Treaty of Rome, if you take, for instance, the fact that the United States has been very vocal about the fact that they are going to try or even block some judges from the ICC to ever visit the United States, then you ask yourself that as permanent members of the Security Council that have the mandate to refer matters to the ICC, what sort of example is being set from that posture? And what is the ICC itself doing to ensure that it can salvage its image or its relations with the United States, so that the United States can endorse this court as a court which can try including its own people who conflagrate international law?
So when you talk about the ICC or the International Criminal Court needing reform, what type of reform are you talking about?
The sort of reform which can breed confidence across the world about the fact that the ICC is first a reformist institution, that the ICC is secondly an institution which takes into consideration the imperatives of restoration of countries before engaging punitive measures. To the extent that the ICC is punitive all the way, that sort of justice is one which begs for questioning. And that is why over time, countries have actually reformed their justice systems. Many of them have taken out the death penalty from the roll. Many of them continue conversations about how to make their justice systems fit for purpose, except the ICC.
So when you say it needs to be more restorative and less punitive, give me examples of when they've gone the punitive route instead of the restorative, and how that, in fact, has caused even bigger problems.
There is no doubt in my mind that the Sudan of today is a result of how al-Bashir was taken out. However bad al-Bashir was, he remained a unifying force in Sudan, and he managed to assuage any instability the likes of which Sudan is experiencing today. If the ICC had a modus operandi by which they found restorative ways of managing critical transitions in countries such as Sudan, or in countries such as South Sudan, or in countries such as the DRC, some of the conflicts which we experience today would actually have been resolved. And we have to recall that a few years back, it was Jean Bosco Ntaganda who handed himself over from Eastern Congo to the ICC. So to the extent that the ICC only looks at who is violating human rights and wanting to punish that, and not looking at how the impact of their decisions affect the bread and butter of the people of different countries, the ICC needs a conversation with itself.
Now, the three countries we spoke about, Mali, Burkina Faso, and Niger, and correct me if I'm wrong, I understand that they all are led by military rulers, as opposed to the one man, one vote democracy we talk about. How significant, therefore, is their voice in terms of holding the ICC to account?
It is very sad for these countries because they are trying to position themselves as transition leaders who are there to right the wrongs of democracy. So you cannot, on the one hand, be righting the wrongs of democracy and actually engaging in activities which demonstrate democratic backsliding, which exactly that is what in this case it is. Yes, they might have issues with the ICC, but perhaps these are issues which they should let a civilian government have to deal with or engage some kind of national dialogue than they themselves, who, in a sense, have blood in their hands, actually pronounce themselves on it. So for me, it is actually contrary to the message which these countries are preaching, that they are out for development, that they are out for stability, because all of these go hand in hand with human rights, which is what the ICC is about. Okay, and lastly, I mean, the fact that these three countries are from one region, they all understand it, originally split from the ECOWAS region or that alliance of sorts. Does this suggest that they're part of another entity that chose to announce their position jointly and send a powerful message in doing just that? It must be recalled that these countries have experienced in the last couple of years the influence of violent extremist groups, to the extent that they have enjoyed the support of ECOWAS, which largely did nothing to annihilate the threat of violent extremist groups, the support of France, the support of the African Union to annihilate the threat of violent extremist groups, until they themselves could take power into their hands, that it could push back on the threat of violent extremist groups. Their argument is that the ICC is doing nothing to actually stop violent extremism. And because of that, they believe that they are doing a better job and that they are going to find mechanisms which are going to deal with violent extremists or terrorist organizations. Wow. So from that perspective, we need to understand them, but not necessarily to endorse them in total. Okay, you certainly got me thinking. Appreciate the tremendous insights you've actually shared here on the show today. That's the African Affairs commentator, Charles Nyokonge. Thank you for your time. Referring to Mali, Burkina Faso, Niger announcing their withdrawal from the International Criminal Court. And certainly the guest believes that there is a need now for a plea really for reform of the ICC. Let's get to the news headlines. Here's Greg House.
Thank you, Ashraf. A quick look at the headlines. The National Police Commission has testified about complaints raised against the KZN Political Killings Task Team. Action SA in Johannesburg has expressed disappointment over the reinstatement of the Patriotic Alliance's Kenny Kunene as a city councillor. And European football's governing body set to vote today on whether to suspend Israel and its clubs from international competitions. There's a full update at 6 o'clock.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Good afternoon. Starting off in Gauteng, the N12 westbound, queuing towards the N1 Diepkloof interchange. The N1 southbound in Midrand has a crash reported at Buccleuch interchange. The N1 southbound slow moving towards the N17 Soweto exit. And the N1 southbound in Randburg has a crash reported on the off-ramp to Malebongwe Drive. In KZN, the N2 northbound has a stationary vehicle at Spaghetti Junction. The N3 westbound, a stationary truck after Cliffdale. Chris Hani Road westbound is slow moving at the N2 highway. And the N3 eastbound, a stationary truck after Cato Ridge exit. In Cape Town, the M7, Jakes Gerwel Drive southbound queuing towards the R300 highway. Stellenbosch Arterial Road eastbound in Kuilsriver queuing towards Nooiensfontein Road. And Main Road outbound in Observatory is slow moving towards the N2 highway. With your traffic update, I'm Irma G.
This is SAFM Sports with Tuming Kapele.
To me, you've got so much to talk about. I'm not too sure what you're going to start with. I'm looking at the headlines. There's a sporting headline there, but there's other things. I'll leave it to you. You set the agenda.
This hour, we're going to start off with athletics because the South African track and field team that competed at World Athletics Championships have officially touched down in South Africa today. The team of 49 returned only with one medal, a bronze by the men's 4x400 meters relay team. And the athletes believe that with better support and more investment, they can achieve more. Meanwhile, South African sprint star Kani Simbini says that he does not view this year as a failure. This is despite ending the season without an individual medal.
Well, we can't say because it was an experimental year, so we don't know what works, what is not working, what is not working. I've been running fast. Just I made finals. Yes, I didn't get a medal, but I still made finals, and everybody expected a medal. I expect a medal myself, but to say that it was a failure or to say that it's not what we wanted. Yes, it's not what we wanted in terms of, the placing, but at the end of the day, we were in the final and we've been running well this season. The season hasn't been a failure. I've got a world medal. I've got a world medal from the year. I'm still in the top 5 in the world. So it's still successes in the year, just that the end of the year didn't go as planned.
In rugby, Springbok coach Rassie Erasmus has made 2 forced changes due to injury and a positional switch to his starting lineup for the Rugby Championship clash against Argentina at Kings Park in Durban on Saturday. Experienced lock Eben Elizabeth and centre Damian Dialandi return in place of Luit de Jager and Apalele Fassi, who were injured in the Box 43-10 victory over the All Blacks in Wellington. Dialandi slots in at inside centre while Damian Willemse shifts to fullback. This is after wearing the number 12 jersey at the Cape 10. There's 3 changes to his bench, which will once again feature a 5-3 split. Bowen Venter returns at prop, while Jan Hendrik Wessels providing cover at hooker, while scrum half Monet van der Berg takes over from the injured Grant Williams. In cricket, Proteas women's coach Mandla Mashimbi says that he's quite satisfied with the team's tour of Pakistan. This is despite a 6-wicket defeat in the third and final one-day international yesterday. Mashimbi believes that the series fulfilled its purpose in preparations for the upcoming World Cup and served as a timely reminder for the squad to maintain high intensity in every outing.
Yeah, I think from a beneficial point of view, I thought it was what was needed. We obviously started well in the series, winning 2 games. I think, we just got a wake-up call in the last game, and just to understand that you cannot take anything for granted. Maybe we did a little bit there, and then we were wiped out in 25 overs, and it's not something that as a coach I must be proud of. I just feel that we can take more pride in our performances more than what we've seen today. Yeah.
Well, then in football, Zimbabwe have confirmed that the World Cup qualifier home match against Bafana Bafana will be played in South Africa at the Moses Mabhida Stadium. The venue for Zimbabwe's upcoming qualifier has been a big talking point, with Zim's Football Federation avoiding to give Bafana a home ground advantage. Then in tennis, national captain Pete Novel expressed his delight after the Renault South Africa team were drawn against Montenegro for the Davis Cup World Group 2 playoff to be held on home soil. This is from the 6th to the 8th of February next year, while the South Africa side were ranked 60th, 25 places higher than Montenegro in the international team competition. Novel said that they would not be taking their opposition lightly. However, he was glad that they would be turning out on home soil for their 3rd successive Davis Cup tie. On that note, it is a wrap from my side.
Okay, perfect. So listen, there's no predictions for tomorrow, right? I know this is not Friday, but it just feels like a Friday.
I know, right?
Yeah.
I thought I was the only one. Maybe because tomorrow is a public holiday.
So I predict tomorrow is Heritage Day.
What a prediction.
Thank you. More sports tomorrow, yeah?
Yes.
Greetings, South Africa. My name is Walter Steenbok, SABC Sport football analyst. My favorite African dish, pap and mohodu. My top 3 holiday destinations will be Thailand, followed by Cape Town, and of course Zanzibar. Yeah, between a train driver and a pilot, I'll really choose to be a train driver, because I'm on the ground. It's very, very safe, and I hate heights. Between fruits and veggies, I think I like fruits, especially apples. I would love to kick penalties against between Sipho Chine and Ronwen Williams. I'll choose Ronwen Williams because I'll put it right in the middle. I saw over the weekend.
Do not miss out on electrifying football analysis on Match Days with Walter Koyoto Steenbok. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport.
Embark on your journey to success with the Durban University of Technology. Applications for 2026 first-year students are now open across our 6 faculties. Closing dates vary, so don't wait. Check detailed entry requirements on dut.ac.za. Apply today through the Central Applications Office at cao.ac.za. DUT and Vision 2030, creative, distinctive, impactful.
If you think you cannot afford a lawyer, think again. Clientele Legal has made professional legal services affordable for you. Whether it's a civil, criminal, or labor-related matter, we have a nationwide panel of attorneys standing by to assist you. SMS SAFM to 32195. That's SAFM to 32195 and we'll call you back. Clientele General is a licensed non-life insurer and an authorized FSP. Standard rates and terms and conditions apply.
Right, this message is brought to you by Ituba, the operator of the National Lottery. Mzansi, your dreams could take flight when you play Powerball and Powerball Plus for a massive 152 million rands in total. Estimated jackpot swell today. So play Powerball for an estimated 83 million rands, Powerball Plus for an estimated 69 million rands. Buy your tickets now in store on the nationallottery.coza, the mobile app, cell phone banking, or dial star 120 star 7529 hash for USSD. Panda Pusha Play. Players must be 18 years or older. Play responsibly. Tuba is the proud operator of the National Lottery.
Economic news on SAFM. Facts and figures you can count on.
So on a Tuesday that looks like a long weekend Friday or somewhere in between, Jimmy, you've got stories about big things like the BEE.
Good afternoon, Ashraf. Good afternoon to the listeners. Yes, the team at Business Unity South Africa have taken to the courts to challenge the employment equity targets that were set or that went live earlier this month. At the start of the month, we saw that some adjustments were being made towards employment equity targets for employers in South Africa, and Business Unity SA has challenged that or is taken to the courts to challenge that. We're going to get a sense of what's happening there. We're also going to take a look at the results put out by Remgro Limited, the investment holding company listed on the JSE. They gave us an update on their full financial year. We're going to speak to the CEO of the business and get a sense of that performance. Then we've got a conversation taking a look at the decision by Taiwan to place restrictions on chip exports to South Africa. Now, Taiwan Semiconductor chip manufacturing company is one of the largest chip manufacturers in the world, alongside the likes of Nvidia, and their decision to impose these restrictions is quite interesting given the tensions that South Africa and Taiwan have had of late. So we're going to take a look at that and see whether some of the political tensions have spilt over into the business and trade decisions in that respect. Then we've got a conversation with the team at Bonitas Medical Fund around choosing the right medical cover, and then we're going to wrap up the show with an update on the beef prices in South Africa. They are still high. We're still battling with foot and mouth disease in South Africa, and we're going to speak to the Red Meat Producers Association around that and see where we stand from that perspective. Before we get to those conversations, I'm pleased to report the Rand is at 17 Rand 25 against the US dollar. It is at 23 Rand 31 against the British pound and 20 Rand 34 against the euro. 1 Australian dollar is around 11 Rand 38, but I'm taking the fact that the Rand is inching closer towards that 17 Rand level as a positive for us. If we look at the performance of the day, the equity side of things, equity markets coming back to the party, especially from a South African perspective, following some slightly weaker performance that we saw yesterday. But the late sessions from the US and Asia sessions this morning really gave some positivity towards our own session as well. Alongside that, obviously, the positive commodity prices. Currently, Speaking of those commodity prices, currently the gold price $3,780 a fine ounce. Brent crude $67.73 a barrel. Platinum almost $1,500 a fine ounce, $1,494. Palladium $1,248 a fine ounce. That has contributed towards resource counters being up almost 3% on the day's trade, 2.8 or 2.9 odd percent in terms of percentage points movements there on the resources sector. Financials 2/3% to the green. Industrials offset that 2/3% to the red. The all share 0.69% in the green, and the top 40 almost 0.8 at 0.78% in the green. So good day on the equity front. If we look at that compared to some of the global equity counters at the moment, the Nasdaq is down 1/3%, but European markets were all in the green, with the CAC 40 the biggest winner there, up about 1.1%. The Nikkei in Tokyo the biggest gain, and Asian markets up about 1%. We're going to be looking at these and other market movements a little later on, especially as we head into a public holiday tomorrow. So that would mean a non-trading day for South African markets tomorrow. We're going to look and see what lies ahead for the rest of the week, but that conversation comes up after the 6 p.m. news. For now, Ashraf, back to you.
Right, perfect. Lots to look forward to. 6 to 7, thereabouts, with Jimmy Moyaha. Right, in fact, we're going to get to you. I need to hear your thoughts on the biggest issues that have moved the national pulse today, and all of that is also up for debate, isn't it? What is it that moves the pulse? You tell me.
Ashraf Garda is streaming live now on Facebook, YouTube, and X at SAFM Radio.
So, Donald Trump has been addressing the United Nations General Assembly today, right? And amongst, I don't have many of them, but amongst the things he said, climate change is the greatest con job in the world. Then he said, we don't have to do much hunting because we have the most oil of any nation anywhere. Oil and gas in the world. And if you add coal, we have the most of any nation in the world. And then he said, it's time to end the failed experiment of open borders. And then saying, your countries are being ruined. There we are. There's more from Donald Trump as we look at it. But let me hear your thoughts in terms of the thoughts you've shared. Here's one on Mkhwanazi.
Good day, Ashraf. It's Subhashan from Durban. I would vote for General Mkhwanazi to be the president of the country, and even to start by the mayor of Joburg. We need leaders like him to put this country back in order, back in shape, and with discipline. Thanks.
So you'd say he should be mayor of Joburg. He's got to stand for a political party then? Yeah? Which one? Just asking.
We have become a fallen state. Everything and anything is nowadays corrupted, from the media to the judges to the lawyers to the politicians, everyone. We are a fallen state.
Please don't say the callers are corrupted too, because that will include you. I'm just saying no, but I hear what you're saying. Thank you.
Hi, Ashraf. Sorry, I was away for the earlier part of your show and I missed the whole Trump speech thing. I just heard from what you said and from what my mom said that it was quite a speech or something. I don't know if there's any time for you to replay it, but yeah, I'd really like to hear it if we could.
Yeah, okay, no time to replay it. I've actually just quoted some aspects. If I find some more time to just read out some of the other quotes, key messaging from there, I will certainly do so.
Hi, Ashraf, how are you? It's Dumisan here from Foxburg, Ekurhuleni. I think General Masemola has got his own Smolanyana skeletons. Judging by the way he answers questions, the way he can't be straightforward with certain answers, it's almost as if he's scared that if he spills the beans here, those that he'll be telling on will also tell on him. I have a feeling General Masemola is not as clean, maybe as General Mkhwanazi is. Just my observation.
Well, interesting. I think Masemola, many people feel that there's ambiguity with Mkhwanazi. There's just about universal support for what he says, how he said it, and the points he's made, and with a conviction. There's been a counter to that to say, stop building up messiahs. And I'm not saying you right or wrong. I'm just putting it out there so you know.
Hi, Ashraf at the SFM
Ashraf, I just want to know that who gives the president, so much power, whereby like he can even making some doubted decision. He can even making some favoritism decision. He can even forming this commission. After that, he just take it into his own wardrobe or maybe at the storeroom and then put everything there. So who gave him that power?
Well, look, I mean, he's got some powers, but it's a constitutional democracy. He doesn't have dictatorial powers. He cannot be an autocrat. Everything has to be within the law. So he's got discretion. He can appoint a cabinet, in fact. So he's got that type of discretion, but it's certainly not a case of I do what I want. There are sufficient checks and balances in a constitutional democracy, which is the type of country we live in.
Good afternoon, Ashraf. Well, the commission can be explosive as it wants. If it's not going to yield some results in terms of ensuring accountability to those implicated, then it's just another chalk shop of some sort. It can sit and conclude and recommend, but as South Africans, we would love to see accountability, because we can't be silent and mum about this kleptocracy state that is currently taking place in South Africa.
Okay.
Thank
you. Kleptocracy. Okay. In fact, here's a news just come through now. The Mkhwanazi Ad Hoc Committee of Parliament is set to begin its oral hearings on October the 7th with General Nhlanhla Mkhwanazi and the National Police Commissioner Fani Masemola on the 9th and 10th. So you got that, Mkhwanazi the 7th of October, the Police Commissioner 9th and 10th, and then Shadrack Sibiya 13th and 14th. And this will happen as a part of the oral hearings of the Mkhwanazi Ad Hoc Committee of Parliament. Very different from the current Commission of Inquiry, just so you know. CJ in Joburg, hi.
Hello, good afternoon, sir.
Yeah, good afternoon. Right, what's your point?
My point is a little bit differ, but it doesn't differ so much. But the political task team, political killing task team, was focusing on the political killing. I wanted to find out why they were not also extended to find out about the container that we had on the news that disappeared with full arms and ammunition in Durban Port. But they can't trace that, but they have to trace the minister regarding all of these parties that they are colluding with the with the drug dealers, cartels, and so on. But there is a container full of illegal firearms that disappear in front of the KZN commissioner, but he can't investigate that. There is no docket with that they can't. But those firearms are illegal in the country. Where are they?
All right, but listen, I mean, I don't know, except I can tell you now that maybe, I mean, in terms of this current commission, it is very broad in terms of policing, political interference, political killings, and others are complicit. So that may well come up if you find somebody raises an issue. I can't prescribe about it, but it could well be the case. So thank you for that, CJ. In fact, here's an interesting tweet. It says, Helen Zille is slowly replacing Mandela. Okay, don't take it too seriously. It comes from Dylan Oliphant, that very humorous stand-up comedian, saying Helen Zille is slowly replacing Mandela. Right, what else do we have to talk about? There's so many more comments that we must pick up on. Here's one.
Good afternoon, Ashraf. One word, confirmation. Our National Police Commissioner just confirmed everything that General Mkhwanazi said. Thank you very much. Peter Mailama from Letswapa.
Okay, Peter. Well, we haven't chatted in a while, but you may be right. In fact, that increasingly so Mkhwanazi's testimony is holding up, isn't it?
Good afternoon, Ashraf. Ashraf, I've been listening to this whole Madlanga Commission from inception. Comparing General Mkhwanazi and General Masemola, one might think that Mkhwanazi is the national commissioner and Masemola is just below him, because really I don't know if the problem is the language or it's just that what Julius Malema said about Masemola is coming to be true. I don't know, but he seems not to be clued up on many things. Maybe it's my observation. I don't know. Bob, Cape Town.
Well, don't apologize for that, because I mean, even in the conversation we had with the analyst earlier on, he said there are many people who are being shown up in terms of, really not being fit for the job, not even necessarily suggesting they're corrupt or something, just not convincing enough. Now, one person who was convincing as a cricket umpire is Dickie Bird. People who follow cricket over the years will know Dickie Bird was an absolute legend of an umpire. And I say was because news come through that he's died at the age of 92. Cricket fans, you know all about Dickie Bird. By the way, an interesting tweet as well from Irfan Mangera, picking up on the whole debate about the conversation we had around the mayor of Joburg, right? And he said, Josie, describe the mayor you'd like to have next year in 3 words. And then saying no names, which is interesting. He doesn't want names, he wants attributes. And I mean, many are saying competent, committed, incorruptible, transparency, honesty, accountability, fearless, willpower, competent, and then suggesting, in fact, do we have a mayor who could stand for that? But interesting is saying no names, just give me the attributes. I wonder whether you would concur with that. Right, there's more to come from you as we, don't forget, tomorrow being Heritage Day. I wonder, heritage, and I want to touch on this sometime. Heritage is not just about culture, which is what we often focus on. It comes from the root word you inherit. And what is it that you may want to give to your children so that they can inherit down the line, living in the South Africa that we all do?
Good afternoon, Ashraf. It's Jody here. Listen, so the police has been infiltrated for the longest of time, even in Jackie Silebe's days. So this is just ongoing. They just change the head and it continues. It just moves over to the new police commissioner and it continues. Like everybody's saying, there's no decisive decisions that gets made to get rid of these guys that are so bad in the system. The system is corrupt to the core. Thanks for a great show, Ashraf.
Oh, much appreciate you listening in. I appreciate the compliments and the feedback, but it's a big team, a team that works, okay? Myself, Keys, Temba, and Vusani, putting it all together on a daily basis here. In terms of your comment, what's interesting is, I don't know whether they're indecisive. I think they could well be decisive about doing nothing. Think about what I'm saying. Because of, and that's the reason for the commission, there's so many people who are complicit in certain things we don't even know. They could well be decisive in doing absolutely nothing.
Good day, Ashraf. It will be interesting to hear what our president knew about the disbandment of the political task team has been implicated again, that he knew about it. If maybe he can tell the nation also, be called. But from what I've seen is that it's going to be called just to polish up what other people have said, but you won't be asked this question. Anonymous, in KZN.
And there's so many sort of Trumpisms, if I can call it that, amongst the things he said today. Trump, he's telling the United Nations, I'm really good at this stuff. Your countries are going to hell. Donald Trump.
Sure. I have to disagree with the previous WhatsApp message. Trump is not decisive. That's why it's called Taco Man. Trump always chickens out. Look at the Ukraine-Russia war. He says, I'm going to impose stricter sanctions on Russia in 2 weeks' time. Well, I don't know. That 2 weeks has gone on for about 6 months. He flip-flops around on the tariffs. He changes stuff within his own country and then changes his mind back again. He can't make decisions. He's probably the worst president America has ever had, and the worst president of America that the world has ever experienced. Thanks. Mike and Quebeca.
Well, Mike, you've just got the whole country thinking to say, you know what, this word about decisive is so overloaded. I mean, here's another one. Today, Trump at the UN General Assembly, he said that the U.S. has taken in $17 trillion in just a few months. Now, the U.S. GDP is only 29 trillion. There we are. And there's more like that. I mean, it's a speech I need to listen to again tonight, and I'm sure we may well analyze it as well, understandably.
Ashraf, JJS takes great. There's no person who's got no human heart like Donald Trump. When he talks about the Israelis captives, he's so passionate, but he said nothing about the suffering of the Palestinian. Nothing.
Well, I heard most of it, and you may be right, I didn't hear everything. He did say this: I look at London, where you have a terrible mayor. It's so changed. Now they want to go to Sharia law. That's again Trump. And I tell you something, today's speech is just full of Trumpisms, really full of it. What about Ramaphosa?
Good day, Ashraf. It will be interesting to hear what our president knew about the disbandment of the political task team has been implicated again, that he knew about it. If maybe he can tell the nation also, be called. But from what I've seen is that it's going to be called just to polish up what other people have said, but you won't be asked this question. Anonymous in KZN.
Okay, Anonymous. Let's see if I've played this one. I hope I didn't get it wrong.
Hello, Ashraf. Guys, can somebody put me up to speed here? Who actually promoted Trump to God? I thought he was a president, but I think now he's playing God. That guy is a dictator in all levels. And he stands there and he shines about, come on, this guy, something is not right. I think they should take him to a psychiatrist hospital.
Who's going to take him? I mean, seriously, who is going to take him, assuming, as you're saying, that? I mean, here's another one. Decisive about doing nothing, okay? The personification of that phrase is our President Cyril Ramaphosa at the Madlanga Commission, and as the Madlanga Commission is exposing, coming from Farai. Okay, let's leave it at that. There were some others. I wish I could play your calls or messages. If you're up for it, please tweet. Use that hashtag, The National Pulse, and then tag me, SM Radio, and myself, Ashraf Garda, even tonight and tomorrow morning, because The National Pulse, in reality, as a feed of the nation's pulse, is a 24/7 job, and you know that. But we'll talk tomorrow. It's Heritage Day. We will be on the air 3 to 6, and there's no commission, which means there's more time to talk to you, right? Let's get the news. Here's Greg House.
Thank you again, Ashraf. Enjoy the rest of your evening. Masemola continues testimony on political killings task team and UEFA to vote on suspending Israel. Good day to you. The National Police Commissioner, Fanny Masemola, has testified about the complaints raised against the KwaZulu-Natal political killings task team. He told the Madlanga Commission in Pretoria how Associate Professor Mary de Haas filed numerous complaints against the task team, including its alleged irregular formation, misconduct, and malicious arrests and corruption. But Masemola defended the team's work, saying the complaints do not hold any substance.
As far as I'm aware, there is no substance to those complaints. Additionally, these complaints were made to the IPID, I'm aware, they were made to Parliament. An example to demonstrate the lack of substance. Mr. Haas complained about a Sergeant Lamini who went on, ended up being convicted by a court of law. So it is complaints that really did not hold any substance, and they keep complaining.
Action SA in Johannesburg has expressed disappointment over the reinstatement of the Patriotic Alliance's Kenny Kunene as a city councillor. The PA leader, Gayton McKenzie, has announced that Kunene has been cleared of any wrongdoing in connection with an alleged criminal syndicate led by Katiso KT Molefe. Kunene was found at Molefe's home when police went to arrest him for his alleged involvement in the murder of DJ Somebody. Action SA's Marcel Coutiers.
His comeback will certainly not go unnoticed, and while he may try to project confidence and control, the truth is that a dark cloud will forever hang over him. This cloud represents the questions of credibility, accountability, and integrity that continue to shadow his career. The people of Johannesburg